So you are at a great place with your finances. Your net worth is, at a stable level where you're feeling good about things. You have the access, you've got the status because you're well respected in your career. You have the security of a great financial and professional foundation. But listen to this. If you were to look at your life's work in this moment, just take a look at what you would consider your life's work. Would you see a collection of assets, or would you see a signature that spells significance? Would you see stuff, or would you see impact? Just in this moment, without judgment, what would a look at your life's work tell of you? You see, wealth in the way the world defines it buys you a seat at the table. Significance, however, is what you do once you've gotten that seat. So, welcome to this episode of Catalyst Conversations. I'm your host, Hadriana Leo, and we're about to dive deep into the difference between accumulation and impact. So, first, let's be clear that when I'm saying wealth in this conversation, I am talking about the way it's commonly defined. If you've read my book or interacted with my content, you would know that for me, wealth is wellness, wealth is wholeness. But for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to use it as, the way people have been defining it in popular culture. And that is the material stuff, the actual dough, the house, the car, the bling, the blang, and all of that. All of these things inherently of themselves are not bad. They are actually harmless. They mean nothing. They provide us with our comforts. They provide us with convenience and access to the things that we want. However, and I keep saying this, access or wealth without purpose often leads to those golden handcuffs that I talk about. And to be honest, money, when you got a lot of money and you have no meaning in your life, you have no purpose to drive it, it just leads to bad behavior, all kinds of bad behavior. And a lot of that is not what most of my women want to be associated with. So those golden handcuffs are a trap. They keep us tied to whatever vehicle is making us the money, but we feel listless. We feel without impact. We feel like we lack purpose and direction. So, significance or impact, what so many of you are yearning for, significance is wealth in motion. It's the transition from just being a successful earner where you do the thing that makes you all the money, where you react to financial demands, to being a wealth architect. It's a beautiful experience that I bring my clients to. That wealth architect proactively directs these financial resources towards impact, significance, meaning, purpose, and all that good stuff. It's when your wealth makes you actually feel good as opposed to your wealth making you look good. You understand? So let's take a look at what that wealth blind spot looks like. So for many high achievers, we suffer from, I guess we can call it a comparison fatigue. You've heard of decision fatigue, but we suffer with comparison fatigue. And that's because oftentimes we deploy our wealth based on how other people are deploying their wealth. It's like the big girls version of keeping up with the Joneses. We deploy wealth in a way that others have defined for us, that we have not defined for ourselves. And the more we do it, the more of a burden it becomes, the more dissociated we become with our experience and our relationship with money. And someone else, a peer group, a community group, a culture, a societal bias or indicator is telling us how we should be using our money. as opposed to our own internal compass. So here's a question for you, and I might be asking a few of those through this episode. My question for you is this: if your bank statement was your only biography, if it was the only thing that someone could use to learn about who you are, what story would it tell? If the only way I could learn about who you are, what's meaningful to you, the things you enjoy, the things that define your life, what story would your bank account tell based on how you're spending your money and how you're earning your money as well? I'll put that one in there as well. Would it tell a story that is just about accumulation? Or would it tell a story of meaningful, intentional contribution to things that actually move you, to things that you value? So, how do we set up an architecture of significance through your wealth resources? Well, we need to move you from analysis paralysis, where you think of all the things you want to do and it just stalls you. It makes you freak out. You just sit there and you're like, well, I can't do anything with this because it's just too complicated. It's overwhelming. I don't have time to learn all these things and all of that. We need to move from that space to a place of strategic confidence and intentionality. So, first thing I'd like you to consider is to move from budgeting to values-based resource allocation. Yes, I know it's a mouthful. In your mind, it is a lot of words to say one thing, but it's so important how we choose that language, because budgeting has taken on a connotation that it is negative, it is restrictive. In fact, budgeting seems to be the handcuffs that most of us want to avoid. But when we look at allocating our money based on our values, that financial ecosystem is able to give a job, a role, a meaningful value to every dollar that we make. So, if you value education, we need to see that reflected in how you allocate your financial resources. If you value female empowerment, we want to see that reflected in how your money is deployed. Whatever it is that you value, you need to ask yourself, is your wealth actively funding that? Or is it sitting stagnant? Is it actually sitting there losing value because you're not deploying it so that your money is making money? Making the decision, though, to start investing your money means that you also need to be actively involved in where making the decisions about where those investments are happening. So you're having conversations with your advisor, your portfolio manager, about what are the assets that you're holding inside of these accounts. Who are the beneficiaries of, those investment dollars. You're having conversations about, maybe all of it shouldn't be in the publicly traded market. Maybe you want to do some private venture capital type investing where you can, pour something into your neighborhood or go and do a project back home in the country of your birth. You want to be intentional and you want your resources to be deployed in alignment with your values. The next thing I want you to consider is a reframe. A lot of us are big on saving, the emergency fund. That is fantastic. You're not going to hear me tell you any different on this platform. But how about we set up a freedom fund? A freedom fund that is not about retirement. It's not about quitting your job. It's about allocating money to something that is significant for you and that it will allow you to make some of the moves that are meaningful to you. So, for example, especially if you are dealing with golden handcuffs, the golden handcuffs are keeping you in a place where you're earning the money, but you're not finding value. So the Freedom Fund allows you to earn the money Stay in the position if you choose to, and go look for significance somewhere else. Go fund your purpose through some other venture, through something that's happening on the side or something that's happening in tandem with. The Freedom Fund allows you to deploy that money that you're earning and use it in such a way that you can free yourself to fulfill or to pursue your purpose. And remember, the Freedom Fund doesn't mean you quit. If you choose to do that, no problem. The Freedom Fund doesn't mean you retire necessarily. If you choose to do that, no problem. But the Freedom Fund will allow you the flexibility to make moves that align with how you want to live your life now and into the future. So you can make those decisions knowing that financially you're okay. You can make those decisions knowing that you can give to that venture and still be all right. You can make those decisions knowing that as much as your heart might not be into that high revenue position, you can take the resources that you gather, the revenues from that position, and deploy it in a way that makes your heart happy. And please also understand, number three, that pursuing a life of significance does not necessarily mean you're just giving money away all the time. There, there is room within our capital structures, within our revenue generating structures, for us to do good and make profit. So don't think that significance means that you're just throwing money away or donating things all the time. You can use your wealth to create sustainable change that is actually profit generating, that helps your money make money while doing wonderful things and making your heart happy. I hear win, 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 win. I hear cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So even as you are searching for significance, don't think that it means necessarily that the significance you seek must come through a donation or giving away. Understand that as we're moving from accumulation to impact, there is room within that for profit. There is room within that for freedom of enterprise. There's room in that space for viable, profitable entities, and these can go together so beautifully within the spaces and places that you're earning and you're exploring, and the opportunities that are coming across your table. Something else I think we need to consider here is this: before you can deploy your wealth in a way that generates a meaningful impact to you, you need to make a shift in your identity, because a lot of our high earning women have backstories with their finances that tells them that they are not worthy of the money that they're making. Believe it or not, there are quite a few of us out there who feel like, the work is too easy. The money I'm making, it's just too much. Or who's going to pay me that? Or, at any minute, someone will realize that, this is just, they're throwing good money at something that I'm not worthy of, and then it'll stop. Understand this: in order for you to deploy that wealth well and in a meaningful way, we need to just kibosh this whole narrative of us not being worthy of wealth. And that's the thing. None of us stands in front of the mirror and thinks, well, I'm not worthy of wealth. No, that's not what the voice says. The voice says, I shouldn't be charging so much. The voice says, well, there are so many other people they could go to. I don't think I'm the one they're going to choose. And so we play small. And so we underserve. And so we try to overcompensate for what we think is a deficiency in our offer or in the work that we do. We get into the office first, we leave last, we over deliver. And I understand that there are many components that go into why this could be happening for a person, but we need to realize that we cannot confidently deploy our wealth when we are still afraid to own it. Let that sit with you for a bit. If you're afraid of the wealth that you're making or the money that you're earning, if you're thinking you are like a misfit in that space, if you're having conversations and thinking, well, obviously they're not talking about me, so I'm not gonna, offer to invest in this venture. I'm not gonna ask any questions because obviously it's not. Well, no. If we are afraid of the wealth that we are creating, we will not be able to properly, meaningfully deploy it. So I want you to make that choice because your desire for significance and impact is a choice. You don't go about and your merry way and suddenly find meaning. No, you're not going to be walking down the road and find meaning. You need to architect significance in your life. You need to architect impact. You need to architect all of the good that you have that desire to create. And how do you do that? You architect significance and impact by aligning your significant income with your deepest human values. That is how you will become a differentiator. That is how you're going to stand true on what you believe, on what you value. That is how your heart becomes at ease with the wealth that you have been blessed to have. And that is how you can feel good about what your money is doing, not just for you, but through you. And remember, you're not going to bail out every charity case that comes your way. You're going to be making strategic, intentional deployments of cash and financial assets so that you can do the good that has been put in your heart to do. You can see the change that you want to see and you can contribute to that. So don't be afraid. Don't let someone else decide what your impact is going to be. Don't let anyone else define what wealth is supposed to look like or feel like. Go deep, go inside, and understand for yourself what you want to have as your biography, what you want to have as your story, what you want to have as the legacy that you leave behind, and let your money tell a story of a life lived for impact and significance. So until next time, I'm Hadriana Leo. Thanks for watching this episode of Catalyst Conversations. And when you're ready to make this a one-on-one conversation, be sure to go onto my website, moneynavigator.ca. Let's have that conversation and move you from accumulation to impact. Until then, take care.